who've come together today to share on legal wellness and belonging. This topic is really important to me. I think everyone deserves to thrive in the workplace, and I know that a lot of us suffer, and this has been a time that has been unexpected for all of us. And a couple of things that are really positive that have come out of it is that now this conversation is even more important, and we're all seeing into each other's homes, and we're seeing how people interact and who they have in their lives and what the other dimensions are, and wellness and belonging and being part of something and showing up and sharing value that matters in a way that's recognized is just, that conversation is elevated. And I love all the calls about all of the leaders who are really intentionally connecting with their teams in ways they haven't before. And even the posts from so many friends who are now connecting with college and high school friends where they never would have thought to get on a video are now doing that because we want to see people and we want to be connected to those communities. So I think there's a lot of good that can come out of this if we're really intentional about it. I'd love to introduce our panelists. We have, I think everyone has the same order on their screens. We have at the top Connie Brenton, who is the Chief of Staff of NetApp, the founder of the Community of Legal Interns and CLOC. And if you don't know CLI, go, what is the website, Connie?
OurCLI.com.
And you will have programming starting when?
Probably in June again, but the last summer programming is up and available.
Okay, cool. And it's the speakers are phenomenal, and it's every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Is that right?
Well, that's what it was last summer.
Yeah, but so hundreds of incredible programming on experts from the community. We've got Carolyn Herzog, who's the General Counsel and Executive Vice President of ARM. Thanks for being here, Carolyn. And we have Dawn Rosemond, who's the Firm Diversity Partner at Barnes and Thornburg. And she runs a site called Rain Today.
Rain Today, yeah.
And it's very inspirational and really positive, and she's a speaker and author, and you've got to check that out. It's a really cool source. And then we have Julie Brush, who is the famous author of The Legal Whisperer, the founder of Solutus Legal, which is the best legal search firm that I know of, and a former professional tennis player, which sounds pretty cool. So
yeah.
I'll start with Connie, if you would introduce yourself and just tell us kind of what was happening in your organization and what is really what has changed a lot for you.
Holy cow, what hasn't changed, right? For all of us, and in a very, very short period of time. Just when we thought the legal industry was not great at change, we have discovered that we are absolutely brilliant at change. And I think some of what has been most beneficial is that we have kept our sense of humor. We have a general counsel, Matt Fawcett, who has been contributing to what we have is called as a social channel. And we have all kinds of jokes and inspirational sayings, and it has kept us out of fear, and it has kept us, and I think you started talking about this when you opened, Monica, it has kept us connected at a very different level than we have been connected before. We are letting people into our homes like we have never let them into our homes before. And there's a sense of empathy and gratitude and vulnerability that is being created around a pandemic. And although there has been, I think we're working through it, foundation of fear, and we are becoming much more resilient through deeper connections. And ironically, those connections are by keeping this video on. I don't know about most of you, but I have never had this video on my Zoom camera open as many hours a day as they are now. And our CEO, here's the other thing, there has been a conscious commitment to communicating And our CEO had a town hall yesterday, and he ended with, be empathetic, be strong, and let yourself be vulnerable, which of course ties into empathy. So although there is this huge, massive change going on, there have been some incredible silver linings that have come out of it. This being one of them. I mean, really, we have an opportunity to have a webinar on wellness.
Thanks, Connie. And Carolyn, if you could share the same thing. And as Matt Fawcett mentioned, you do some incredible writing on artificial intelligence. And I didn't put your Twitter handles on here, so I'm sorry, but I'll share those afterwards. And everyone on this call would be well served to connect with all four of you on social media because of what you share and the work you do in so many interesting ways.
Well, thanks. And Matt really does some incredible writing about wellness as well, and I really admire the work that he's done in promoting that. And it's something that I think is, we've all sort of asked ourselves, well, what makes us the experts? And, Connie was talking about this in our earlier conversations to talk about wellness, and it's really this call to action that I think we all feel in terms of how do we care for the well-being of our teams? How do we care for the well-being of all of our employees across the company? And, we're really thinking about that at ARM right now. We have about 8,000 employees across the company. Some of us are really thinking about this with the perspective of the legal profession. It's been a topic that we're all talking about. And for me, it's something that I care about a great deal. When we do, a lot of us have done our Myers-Briggs in our history, or we've looked at, who we are and how do we engage with people and our employees, who are we as leaders. I'm one of those people that always weighs very much on the side of the people side of things. It's not something that all lawyers really connect to. From my background, I also grew up with somebody that suffered from really significant mental illness in my life. Many of you out there may have people in your lives that suffer from mental illness. I have a daughter that suffers from some anxiety issues. A lot of us right now who have children in school maybe suffer from stress or suffer from some anxiety issues. And a lot of us right now are dealing with employees or people in our companies that are really suffering from new kinds of stress that they haven't really experienced before. And this is something that people are dealing with on a global basis. And right now, this is the first time in our lifetime that it is something that people are dealing with on a global basis. It's a really new kind of issue for everybody around the world. We're looking at unemployment that our generation has never dealt with before, so they're really new issues. And for all of us, it's an opportunity as leaders to look at how are we going to deal with this. And there's no profession like the legal profession that is better prepared for crisis management. And I think we're going to talk about, how do we prepare for that. But for those of us that have been managing teams that maybe are in a position for dealing with crisis management, it's a new call to action. And so for me, I feel like it's a real opportunity. Connie talked about, things that maybe Matt was doing. For those of us that have that opportunity to infuse a little bit of sense of humor, we balance where is it appropriate? Where can we do that? How do we balance those that are suffering with our opportunities to infuse a little bit of humor? We've been playing games on my team. I've been connecting with people. Maybe your dog runs in, right at that inopportune moment, or somebody's child comes in. I've had people's spouses that come in and close the curtains. And it's so nice. It's so refreshing, I think, to connect with people in those new ways. I mentioned before we started the call that our CEO really shared a moment of vulnerability that he had never shared before. He has a severely disabled child, and he did a video that he shared with the whole company to talk about how he was having to change his schedule to help his wife because their caretaker is no longer able to come into their home. And he shared a video and put his child on his lap. His child is severely autistic, nonverbal. And suddenly people in the company, he's been with our company for almost 30 years, and some people have known him for almost those full 30 years. and had never known about his son. And it was a moment of vulnerability. And I think by sharing those vulnerabilities that we all have, it's a way of connecting and a way of allowing other people maybe to ask for help in ways that they haven't. So I think we can all, maybe by talking about this today and bringing it back to our companies, we'll be able to help everybody get through this tough time.
Yeah, that is such a good point of being an intentional leader and giving permission to everyone to ask for help and to be vulnerable.
Yeah, the other thing I would point out, Carolyn, and you bring up a really good point, that it is okay now to talk about mental illness and wellness, and it has been a topic in the industry for years. And so maybe this is the gateway to opening up additional resources and allowing people to be much more open and transparent with their struggles as they become more vulnerable just by letting people into their homes.
Yeah.
Thanks. Dawn?
Yeah, I have to echo what's been said thus far. I mean, I'm really excited about this. I mean, this to me is one of the many bright spots that can come out of something that's so heavy. I have been, I've been practicing lawyer for 20 plus years. It started in '96. I've never seen us I've never seen us come together like this, in terms of rallying to make sure that it wasn't just, it went beyond what you would expect. You would expect certainly lawyers to rally around making sure that you're providing the same requisite level of client service, excellent client service. You would expect that sort of thing. But to see from the top down, people come together to make sure, like, hey, does everybody have what they need? Is everybody, sufficiently resourced? What do we have to do? And I've seen, teams come together where, I mean, we're going to be very transparent. I don't know how to be any other way, where before this, I would have lost money if you're like, those people will never work together. Right. And you see it now where you're like, all right, we've got to get some, come together because I need you to say this and I need you to help me here. And so I feel it, just like everyone else. This is, I have to explain things to my children. I don't really have words to, the words for, because I'm trying to work through it myself, and trying to care for, an elderly parent, and just all sorts of things. But I remain I'm really, really excited about what we as, this amazing profession, what we're going to look like, on the other side of this. There's this, quote I love. I'm going to mess it up. It's a quote by Dr. King, and they asked him at some point, you've heard the quote, but the backstory of it, they asked him at some point what, if he could live at any other time. It was during the height of just the civil rights movement. If you could live at any other time, when would it be? And he was very eloquent, obviously, and talked about all these places that he could potentially choose and that you might think he would choose because it was easier, prettier, less tragic than what he was experiencing. But he said, but at the end of it, I'd choose to be right where I am right now, because it's only when it's darkest can you truly see the stars. And I've been saying that repeatedly since we've all been enveloped by this pandemic, that this is the opportunity for light to be light. And lawyers have occupy a unique space, I think, in the world, and that we are able to nimbly move in and out of all sorts of industries. We're needed in all sorts of industries. And so I'm really, really hopeful. This is hard. I'm seeing it's making me more aware of the work I get to do as a diversity professional for our firm. I'm a lawyer, have some of, have my practice, but I spend my time serving as our firm diversity lead. That's people work, man. That's I all day long think that's just advocating for people to be seen. And so more than ever, I think that's necessary. I love that you you use words like belonging. I mean, that's critical, I think, in a time like this. And I think if we do this right, do more of this, coming together. You know, I didn't know you guys before this. I'm so excited that I get a chance to now count you as a part of my my network. I'm better for it. And so I think those are the things that I, if we grab a hold of those opportunities, we can really shape something that's going to hopefully move us further down the road than maybe the path we were on before we encountered this common enemy.
That's awesome stuff. And I can't wait. I'm sure all of the attendees can't wait to hear really specifically what we can do and what can shape in the law firms, in the legal departments, in each of our organizations to make sure that in a month we don't forget this and that we're still on a path to create change for good. Julie, you want to share?
Sure. So, you know, what I'm noticing is that, you know, I've been through certain different crises now in my many, many years of practicing law and being in the recruiting world, and in the dot-com bust of 2001, and then the financial crisis of 2008 and 2009. And one of the things that, and also 9/11, right? And to me, what's happening right now feels more akin to what's happened in 9/11 in the certain way that, you know, we are all coming together as human beings, and there's a crisis that's connecting all of us, and you know, we don't have an enemy, or I guess the enemy is you know, is the virus, and you know, and we're all working together for, you know, the preservation of the human race, really. I mean, not to be overly dramatic, but a lot of this, and it's very, you know, what's happened has been very extreme. And I think that when you have very extreme circumstances, it gives people permission to be more honest and vulnerable about the things that they're going through in terms of mental health, in terms of struggles and challenges. And even quite honestly, you know, speaking as a working mom, to be able to actually talk about dealing with homeschooling my kids. And I'm taking this call from the car because my house is a complete chaos. But to also be okay with talking about the other responsibilities that we have in our lives, and what we need to do, and giving people a window into that, so that there's more of a greater understanding of what we are dealing with every day, crisis or not, right? And so I think that these extreme times provide a platform of more forgiveness, less judgment, and also the opportunity for people to feel more comfortable raising these issues. I do believe that even though we are in this type of environment that's more forgiving, I believe that the leadership and the behavior of our leaders is absolutely critical. Like, this is a real opportunity for GCs, hiring managers, CEOs, C-level whatevers, to actually seize on this opportunity and provide the leadership that, you know, that demonstrates to the rest of the organization that it's okay, I'm struggling too, or, you know, or I just ate 3 Big Macs the other day, or my big thing of jelly beans, or, you know, it's all okay. And I think that it's human nature to look to our leaders for guidance. And so while we each are our own leaders in our own rights, and we need to behave that way too, that's absolutely critical. Because when you have a mass kind of group of people who are behaving the same way and talking about these things, then it catches like wildfire, and other people feel like it's okay too. But I think it's also incredibly important from our leaders to understand the opportunity that they have right now to really affect change in a very material way. So we're also in this place of, you know, from a peer management perspective, of change management, right? There's a lot of change that's happening right now, and human beings don't like change. It's human nature not to like change. Even good change creates stress. So one of the things that I think is important is we can kind of go back to our professional roots in understanding change management and how to deal with change, right? Because that's what's happening right now. And change is going to continue to occur in a pretty material way. You know, I would say probably for the next, probably 6 months, right? Maybe even a little bit longer. And so that's something else to really think about. But I also think that what I have found, at least with my team, is a sense of humor. I mean, we are all kind of struggling with certain things and different things, and we get on a Zoom call and we laugh about it. I mean, it's some of these things are, you know, if you can inject humor in them, it kind of diffuses some of the seriousness, and it also creates more empathy and sympathy. So, so I think that that's another thing. But, you know, dealing with mental health issues and the struggles in what's happening right now are very serious issues. And so, you know, leadership is super important. I'm also dealing with, from my end, a lot of individuals who now have a little bit more time to think about their own happiness and what makes them happy. Are they in the role that makes them happy? Are they seeing things, you know, from their leaders that are inspiring them, that are the catalyst to either continue to stay at their companies or to think about, if they're seeing lack of leadership, you know, to think about a move. And so what I'm seeing from my end, from the candidate perspective, is more of a little bit more time to self-reflect and to think about what's really important in their world for happiness in a job and in their own personal lives. So this is another opportunity to, you know, to look at the silver lining, which we're talking about, and think about kind of what do I want in my life, right? I'm a very optimistic person, and I'm always a kind of silver lining. And I think that, you know, even in these really difficult and challenging times, I think that as a culture and as a race, we need to be able to continue to highlight the positivity and the opportunity that we have that's coming out of this, because there's so much of it that's out of our control. So with the things that we can control, you know, let's shine a bright light on that and be positive. And I think that will kind of, you know, serve as a platform to lift up those around us.
Yeah, great. Excellent points, Julie. Carolyn, did you want to comment on that?
No, I think those are great points. I think it's the tactics, which I know you're going to ask some questions around. We can get into. Yeah.
Yeah. We had a couple questions. Oh, my mouse is, there we go. Sunil Ramani, did you still have a question? Did you have a question you wanted to ask?
Question, yeah. Hear me?
Yeah, a little bit. You're kind of quiet.
Okay, is it better now? Now.
Yeah.
Now, my question is, in this time when there's so much of uncertainty, we as lawyers also are going through a lot of stress. So how do we, what steps we take to control and, you know, make ourselves feel better and be in control of things?
Well, I mean, I'll provide one kind of option. Lawyers, as a general proposition, like to have control of things, right? And today, more than ever, there's a lot more that's out of our control. So one suggestion would be to create a routine for yourself and something that you are controlling with yourself. That creates a sense of control and actually controlling what you can. So one of the things that I did, because I was feeling the exact same way that you are, Sunil, is I came up with a daily plan, almost like a professional, a personal and wellness plan for myself each day. where I would have a routine. I would get up, I would do this, I would do that, I would do this. And I incorporated wellness, which could be exercise, talking to a friend, meditating, spending time with my kids or whatever it is, but blocking out periods of time for yourself and also for your family and your other obligations, and having it. I mean, you can obviously create, you know, whatever type of schedule you would want, but for me, coming up with a real routine on a daily basis that kind of goes through the next several weeks made me feel much better. It made me feel like I was more in control. So, so that's one suggestion that I have that was really helpful for me.
So
I might just, go ahead, Connie.
let me jump in here because I did a little bit of research on wellness, and the first thing is put your own oxygen mask on first and take care of yourself first. And I think all of us in week 1 started with, I'm going to get up in the morning, I'm going to shower, I'm going to behave as if I were going to the office, I'm going to take a walk, I am going to hydrate, I can eat healthy for the first time, I'm going to cook for myself. And by week 2, or maybe Friday of week 1, we are, Julie and I were laughing, eating jelly beans for lunch and breakfast. All of us on this call talked about the fact that, oh wow, we showered today and we got dressed, ready to be presentable in front of a camera. And so I think that we all know what we need to do. Breathe. Meditation has been proven to be a fantastic tool, and it's easier said than done. Have a sense of gratitude. At least just take three things in one day. What are you grateful for? Get enough sleep, hydrate, all of those kinds of things. And then on the flip side, give yourself a break, because this is a roller coaster ride that we're all watching. And the more we can laugh about it, I mean, look, Julie's in the car. So, and everyone's like, oh yeah, Julie's in the car. 2 weeks ago, that would not have been an acceptable place to take a webinar as a presenter. So, in one sense,
I've done podcasts from the car before, Connie.
Yeah, there you are.
Wait, it wasn't Connie? Uh-oh.
Exactly. So I think everybody kind of knows what you should be doing. And every day you do one of those things, you should be giving yourself a pat on the back. Anything better than yesterday, anything better than 2,200 jelly beans today is going to be success.
We have a few questions, which I will get back to, but I want to share a slide really quickly. And Connie and I have been talking about the power of humor before the call. And I had a friend who commented, we're not working from home, we're at home trying to fit work into our homes. And that is a huge difference, because when I work from home, my 11-year-old is not here playing video games and asking me to get food and, you know, all the other things that come along with that. So there is a huge difference. I have found this Mommy Needs a Life on Twitter, and she is my new favorite. But so I love this quote. I just thought I'd share it really quickly. Gwyneth Paltrow said in an interview, we should take this time to learn a new book, learn a language, write a book. I just shook chip crumbs out of my bra, and I don't know what day it is. I'm fairly certain I'm not going to attempt either of those things. I think there is this expectation like, oh, we all have so much more time now. We're going to get millions of things done. And I'm thinking, like, more time. I have less time because I worked from home before, whether you did or didn't. Like, now we have all of the other elements in our lives that are here. Carolyn, like you were saying about your executive, that is a real issue that I have other friends who are in similar situations where they relied on people outside of their homes to come help them with things that are necessary. I can't even think about the nursing industry, for example, or with elder patients. If I had a parent at home who needed care, how would I do that? And I know that there are those of us who are struggling with issues that take so much more out of us. So how do each of you create space for your teams during this time to realize that it's not 9 to 5 or 8 to 6 or 7 to 10 like it was before is very different. What is that? How do you allow people to breathe and know, like, maybe I get 15 minutes of work done in the next hour and not worry that they're going to get fired, right?
I didn't mean to talk over you, Carolyn. I don't know if you were going.
Why don't you take that one, Don? And I saw there was a question on international, and maybe I'll take that one, Monica, when that comes over, because we are such a global company, and I thought you had a really nice story the other day, Don.
Well, I just think that, I mean, if I understand the question correctly, you kind of piggybacks off of what Julie was saying. I think you have to give yourself permission. I mean, I agree. You have to give yourself a routine, what you're going to wear, how you're going to show up, but you have to give yourself permission to not be okay. I had one of my partners send around this is to a group of us, sent around an email the other day on an article on grief. And she said something like, you know what? And I appreciated it. She's like, you know, I've been trying to figure out what's going on with me. And I read this article, and I decided today I was taking the day off and hang out with my son. And he goes, and I think that what's been going on with me is this. I think I'm feeling grief, you know. And I read the article, and I'm like, yeah, it's kind of something like that. And I think your teams, my teams, I for instance, make sure that I send out, you know, check-ins. I want to make sure I hear from them, how they're doing. And I used to say this all the time. I mean, you got to ask people how they're doing, and then have the audacity to stick around for the answer. And so it's not okay anymore. Like, how you doing? I'm like, I'm fine. It's like, no bull crap. How are you today? You know, and give them permission to give you a real answer and be okay with that. I mean, every day routine, you know, the best of intentions are there, but some days you're like, golly, this is weird. And this is not where I'm not at my best right now. So let me go do this. And it has to be okay. And you've got to trust your people enough and communicate that you trust them enough to allow them to find their way, just like we're finding their way. I was watching something the other day. I mean, to your point, Connie, about, you know, just, you know, digging in a little bit to wellness, you know, in terms of, like, you know, even the most esteemed expert we can find out there to talk about any of this, they're still trying to figure it out. We've never seen anything like this before. You know, when I said, you know, use the example of, you know, like a 9/11 or Hurricane Katrina, we all had and I don't mean to be insensitive, but just to make the point, we all had the luxury, who were not in New York or in New Orleans, to sit back and say, my gosh, praying for those people. I'm going to send my money. I'm going to send resources. I mean, the bravest among us maybe traveled down to help. But we could actually, though, then separate ourselves from it. We're all in the hurricane. We're all in this. And so we're all trying to figure it out. So I think as a leader, we have to be mindful enough. Our EQ has to be, this is a test of our EQ. We have to be mindful enough to make sure that people have the space to say they're not okay. I had one partner of mine say, hey, people keep telling me this is the most amazing time to do webinars. This is an amazing time for your practice. Teach your clients. You can tell them all about you. And she's like, I don't have time to do webinars. I'm at home with 3 kids, and they're everywhere. And I'm still trying to service my clients. And I'm still trying to find my way. I don't know how to do any of this. I don't have time to research and do all of this. And we have to be okay with that. I get it. There's an opportunity to grow, but I think it has to be something that's organic. And yes, you want to take advantage of things, but you have to give people permission and space to say, I'm not doing all right, or I need to do this for me. You know, I have spring break next week. It's been on my calendar since the beginning of the year. I am going nuts in my mind trying to figure out, do I take it? Can I take it? Because do I send the message if I take it that I'm not all in, that I'm not preparing? But you're right. We've been doing more since we've been in this than less. And so mentally, my gosh, I need to take it. I'm not going to be by a beach like I wanted to. I'm not going to be doing any of those things, but those are first world problems, man. I just, you know, so, but those are the kinds of things that people need to be able to express and be okay and not feel like they're going to get beat up for it if we're going to get through this hole, if you will.
I'm on spring break right now. We went to the Grand Canyon, as you can see.
That's awesome.
Sure.
Yeah.
You know
It's
that,
about the Grand Canyon.
Don,
one of the attendees said, take it, send the message that it's okay. And I think that is a really great point, Jennifer. So thanks for your comment. And for me, it was legitimately like, I actually feel good staying at home, but I did give a lot more time to playing board games and watching movies and staying up late and eating whatever we wanted for breakfast and, you know, all of that, making popovers. So we had more fun than, you know, a normal school work week, but there was definitely some on time for both of us. I made my son do guitar lessons online. So, you know, keeping some schedule.
Monica, can I jump in on something that Dawn was suggesting, that we ask how our team is doing? So we have built in now to each one of our team meetings, the first 5 or 10 minutes is around the room, how are you doing? And we had a team meeting this morning, and this was a surprise to me. Everyone on the call had been feeling bad, like physically sick. So then I realized, oh wow, nobody feels comfortable saying they're sick because it carries this coronavirus stigma with it. And that is something that really hit me hard this morning, because one of the people on the call said, look, I have a temperature, I've been feeling really lousy. Then the person next to her, me too, and my husband and my children. And that is a topic that is now coming up because we're asking the question, how are you? And there's an expectation and a freedom and a sense of trust amongst us now that we can share how our health is to one another. But that was an aha moment for me this morning.
We had, before we go to the international question that Petra asked, David Curran asked, how do we keep in touch with the wonderful people on this program and others in our network? Because he misses the personal socialization, and setting up formal meetings makes it stilted. I do know a lot of people who hold office hours, David, and if there are others who are interested in that, I'm happy to open up my Zoom line for periods of time where people can come in and out and say hello if they want to. If that's something that's of interest, just let me know, send me an email, comment here, and sign up for my emails, and then you can get the information on, you know, Zoom drive-bys or virtual walk-bys or whatever you want to call it. So I think those are all really good ideas on how to enforce community, and even just have, you know, a couple of like, oh, hey, so-and-so's in my office, you know, stop on by if you want, those kinds of things. I love that idea.
One of the things that I've done with my network and my team and my friends is I send out an email and I tell them that I'm going to be having a virtual lunch, and I will I'll literally go on Zoom by myself and eat. And if anybody wants to join me, then they can. And I've done that also, by the way, with happy hour. So on Fridays at, you know, whatever time, I'll have exactly. I'll have, you know, I'll turn my Zoom on, and I'll just have a cocktail, and and people, you know, they show up and it's fun, and then people will pop on and pop off, and my kids are in the background, and you know, then their kids are in the background, or their dogs or cats or whatever. But it's actually, it's kind of fun, because I mean, you got to eat anyway, and at the end of a long day, if you have a cocktail or you're unwinding or having a glass of tea or a cup of tea or whatever, people, it's kind of fun to know they can just like pop in if you're sending a link, and they pop in and pop out. So that's one thing that you can try, and it's kind of funny and fun and spontaneous, and the people that have been part of that in my network have loved it. It's been really fun. And by the way, I've connected with people that I haven't seen in several years. So that's been kind of fun too.
That's super cool.
So
Petra Van Hilst is the founder of the General Counsel Network in Amsterdam, and she asked, How do you deal with international cultural differences surrounding the crisis best as leaders? Hi, Petra, welcome, thanks for the question.
So I'll pick that one up because for those that don't know, ARM is headquartered in Cambridge. We're owned by a Japanese company. We're probably one of the few companies that was already having some virtual board meetings. We have over 8,000 employees at this point and well over 60 nationalities. So we are a company that probably was, already dealing with a lot of flexible working, a lot of virtual calls. We did travel a lot, and so one of the big things that, frankly, is probably one of the benefits. I mean, one of the things that I have found is something of a relief. I was due to be traveling, half of March and every single week in April. And so for me, I think my family's probably sick of me already. I actually did a video that went out to the company, and I took the big plunge to video my family members. I think my husband's video was something along I asked, what were some of the, what did the family feel in terms of some of what are the best and worst parts of being quarantined with me? My husband said something along the lines of, it's all good as long as you stay in that little office right there. I caught my daughter, she was supposed to be vacuuming, but really she was just torturing the dog because we have one of our dogs, thinks that the vacuum is a dragon. And my other daughter was, being tortured. She actually has a lot of, her school is assigning her homework, and the other daughter, her school is not assigning her any homework. So it's a terrible dichotomy. So she was suffering miserably trying to do her homework, and she said, well, I guess it's good for the environment, but I have nothing to do. So for my team, which I think it's a great question, we already having this 8-hour difference between something of our U.S. headquarters here in San Jose, where actually at this point most of our executives, despite being British, actually are here in the U.S., but most of our employees are in Europe, primarily at our UK headquarters. So we've always been struggling with this spanning of, our days start very early. The team in the UK always ends up with late calls. The team members in the U.S. have very early calls. And I think it's been just exacerbated. Well, since you're not commuting, can you start calls earlier? And then folks end up going later. And then the poor folks with kids are really, with small kids, are really struggling with how do I manage this day? And it has been very much a struggle. And we have a Chinese joint venture. We have lots of folks in Asia, many partners, and of course the U.S.-China trade war has just made lots of things even more difficult this last year. And so we're having to have very honest conversations about how do you not let this situation just become abusive? How do you give people space? How do you not just assume that since somebody's home, it's fine, I'll just talk to you after you put your kids to bed, and really make sure that we're not just assuming it's okay because you're home anyways. And trying to get feedback. So we're having lots of conversations about what does flexibility mean. Dawn, your point about vacation, I had the same thing. I had vacation in my diary. We're trying to set the right examples and leading by example. I do a coffee talk every Friday now with my team. For anybody who remembers that wonderful Saturday Night Live skip from years ago with Mike Myers. Different ways of connecting with people. I probably have a few too many happy hours with people as well. But trying to connect with people and ask those honest questions about what do you need? Because for many people, it's one thing to say, I give you flexibility, I give you the gift of flexibility. Some people, permission is not enough. I think as leaders, we actually have to have the frank and honest conversation to say, not only do I give you permission, I'm asking you to tell me what do you need so that I can be a little bit more prescriptive for you, to tell me how do I help you, and maybe we need to specifically adjust and consistently do that. One of the things, I think we're all being sort of researchers now in health and wellness. I think we're probably, in this particular group, optimism is something that we're born with. We're looking for those silver linings. I don't think any of us will go back to work and presume that it will be the same. But this connectedness, this communication, we're communicating probably a lot more with more people than we used to. I have met people's children. I have met their spouses. I have met their pets. more people on my team are communicating with me on a regular basis. I'm sending multiple messages to the whole team a week, and then individuals, multi-levels down, are sending me regular messages back and saying, well, since you asked, here's how I'm feeling. And then they're telling me about their days. They're telling me about their families. So I'm getting a lot more insight. People outside of my team across the company are sending me messages because I think they want people on the executive committee to know how they're feeling and to make sure that they know that, they're out. They want me to know that they're out there and that this is what is happening. So we will learn so much more as time goes on. I think Dawn's perspective on the grief cycle is very relevant, and people in different countries are feeling it differently because the COVID virus is impacting people differently in different countries. The perspective on what is going to back to work going to feel like, because some people, even if the government allows people to go back to work, they're not going to want to go back to work. They're going to be afraid of it, and they're going to wonder, what is my company going to do? So I think that cultural sense, and even, we always talk about as lawyers that, to me, employment law is the biggest indicator of culture. And so, partnering with our HR teams, our people teams is a really good indicator in that, people don't want just the law to dictate how the company is going to respond. And so if you are an American company and you are somebody sitting in another country, you're thinking, I don't want my American company to dictate how, the company might respond in the Netherlands or in France or in the UK, because my cultural experience in terms of how the company might respond is going to be very, very different. So I hope that, gives a reasonable response in terms of, keeping up with the pace, because it is somewhat week to week, month to month. Like Julie, I don't think this is a week away, month away. I think we're going to be in this for many, many months, and it is going to be a gradual return to work, probably, many months away. I don't think whole companies are going to return to work, and it also is very much going to depend on industry. We're in an industry where I think we can manage in a remote environment very well. I think other industries, like if you're in retail, will have to really think about that very carefully.
Connie and Carolyn, something that really surprised me was when we spoke a week ago, you both said that you were kind of inundated with messages from vendors and service providers. Tell us a little bit about that and what the best way is to interact with clients in this time.
Connie, you want to go first? You had quite a passionate response about that.
Well, because we're getting 30 to 50 emails a day on this is how I can help you. So people that I have not heard from for years are, let me tell you everything that you need to know about COVID-19, and this is how I can assist. And it feels like a sales opportunity. And so even if it is sent from the heart, the fact that we're getting this many from this many new participants, it also has a tendency to feel tone deaf.
Yeah.
It's different to get a solicitation than it is to get an invitation to connect. And that, unfortunately, during this time, the reaction to a situation like this has a long tail. So if you respond with trust and compassion and in an appropriate way, that has a long tail, as does the, oh, now you have figured out a new method to get through the door, and it feels insincere and it feels like it's a mass mailing. That too has a long tail.
Yeah, I had a similar feeling. I feel like, you know, where I have a relationship with a firm, for instance, and they're giving me their materials or they're updating me, very helpful. Where I have no relationship, or where it wasn't relevant, or where they're already helping my tax advisor and they're just making sure there's another angle for me, that uplift, not welcome, or where they sent me a message on Monday and on Tuesday, putting this at the top of your email, it's just bombardment and so unnecessary. It was really, you know, Connie used the word crass. I felt like, you know, just unnecessary, because your usual 300 emails in your inbox have gone to 600. And, you know, to our point, you know, earlier, we're trying to address the anxiety in our you know, in employee base. We're trying to address, you know, it's crisis management. You know, it's not really helping us address. Plus, we are all dealing with cash management, right? This is not a time when we are unnecessarily spending a lot of company money. We're trying to preserve our employee base. We're trying to manage cost. We are not going to be spending an unnecessary amount of money on, you know, new and innovative ways to, you know, use AI to determine, you know, unnecessary things. This is really pure crisis management, and you know, that's, you know, I recognize everybody's, you know, concerned about their costs as well and how they're going to preserve their own business, but it was pretty overwhelming. Up here on mute, Monica.
It's kind of like the reset button here, where kindness and wellness and belonging should always have mattered, but now they matter even more. And so we've been able to put those at the top, and communications on any level need to be focused on this intention to do good and serve with kindness.
And I guess from our own response, you know, when I'm getting messages from people, and, you know, again, sort of those random people around the company that are sending me a note, I'm also presuming they're feeling unstable. They're feeling like they want to make sure somebody's paying attention to them. I start from that presumption, you know, and I can use that assumption from vendors as well, but there's a difference between the people that I know and the people and how they start the message from the kind of messages that Connie's talking about.
We have another question that I think is really great. It's from Sunil Ramani. As a team leader, how do you motivate your team when we're all working from home? Don, do you want to jump in on that?
I mean, yeah. How do you? I think, I mean, I've always felt this, and whether we're working from home or sitting right across from each other, I mean, you follow, you know, a leader, if you will, who is authentic and demonstrating that they, I mean, I don't think I can overuse it, that demonstrate that they see you and that you actually are a part of the team. And those are the things, at least I found, relative to folks that I have the privilege of managing or leading, and certainly those whom I've leaned into, those are the ones that inspire me to want to, you know, I hate this phrase, but for lack of a better one at the moment, like when you talk about people like, well, run through a wall for you, right? You do that because you're like, my gosh, they are not just a positional leader. They actually give a damn. And so I think the same, I mean, the same is true in this new normal of working from home, if not more so. You know, I got an email, you know, this morning, you know, from one of my colleagues, and it starts out with a whole bunch of stuff. No mention of, hey, how are you? How's your family? How are you feeling? How are you managing during this? I have to acknowledge certainly that is one of my things. If you work with me or on my teams, that's the way I interface with my clients, my folks, because that's part of who I am. But in this time, I think it's even, you know, to the point, I mean, I know we're not talking about outside solicitors, but that same sentiment works or is relevant internally as well. And so I think you motivate by making sure you are authentically engaging your team, the folks with whom you're interfacing. It does not cost you much to make sure that you take a few moments to see how they are, so you can locate, so you can figure out the best tone to deliver whatever it is that you need to deliver in that meeting, right? I mean, and especially if it's something that's hard, you have to even more so, it's really important, I think, then to make sure that you understand the room, that you understand where people are. It's going to change. This is a true statement. Normally, even more so now. It's going to have a lot of volatility from one moment to the next, depending upon what someone's child did that day, or what news they got that day, or how the news itself impacted them that day. And so I think you have to lead from a very authentic space. If you're not used to that, if that's not a comfort zone for you, you're gonna have to fight to get out. You're gonna have to fight against it. If you're not a leader who's normally one who is kind of a rallying, kind of a cheerleader leader. I'm not saying that you have to become that, but I think you have to, if you're not, you're going to have to make sure, have I checked in with my folks? Do I interface with them only when I want them to do something? Or am I making sure that I'm balancing that with, I don't need anything from you. I just want to make sure you're good. What can I do for you as your team lead, as your whatever? How can I support you? How are your resources? Those sorts of things. I think motivation, to me, you can't make any grown person do anything. You can threaten them with their employment, you can threaten them and all sorts of things, but at the end of the day, you're still not getting the best work product out of them. I think the best way you're going to get folks to really, really, like I said, stand up and be all in with you is to lead by example. And you're going to have to demonstrate that I'm all in. If someone says to you, hey, this is where I am today, so I can't do X. I'm not saying you don't deal with that, but you have to be sensitive to what they're saying to you in that moment, so that you are managing appropriately in the moment that you're in, and not based upon your kind of sense of how everyone should be based upon how you are. I don't know if that makes any sense.
I agree with you, Don. And one of the things that we have not mentioned today is success begets success. So we are connected more so than we ever have been, but we're connected around work. And so we have been able to innovate in a way that we've not been able to innovate before, because we understand each other's business better. Petra, this goes partly to your question as well. Because we're up at night, up early, up late, connecting with our global counterparts, we understand the business better than we ever have. And so once you do that and you start actually creating something for the business together, and you're successful as a group, that is self-initiating. So it's a point that we really haven't talked about in terms of, okay, we're connecting, yeah, but we're connecting initially over this pandemic, but at the end of the day, our work product is getting better.
I also wanted to add a couple things in terms of how to motivate and inspire your team. I think that teams are looking to their leaders to know that things are going to be okay, even though there may be times where we don't know if it's going to be okay. But so I think that in terms of how to motivate them, being calm and also being having a sense of being positive about things, and just having that almost like that calmness about you in terms of the pragmatic, okay, so here's what's happening right now. We know things are uncertain, but we'll get through this, and also providing your team with some opportunity to give them some tips and some skills and how to manage. Also, checking in obviously is super important. But I do think that this notion that we're in this together and that we're going to forge ahead and we're going to tackle these issues the best we can, gives your team a sense of, things are going to be okay. The world, as we know it, will not end, but, and we're going to go through times of crisis, but we're going to do this together, and we're going to do the best we can and have whatever plans we can to navigate. And I think that's super important. And I think that teams look for that, and they look for that sense of calmness and that sense of, even if you don't know, that you're still searching for a knowing as well. If our teams see us freaking out, I think that
creates disruption in the team and creates risk that there's a lack of cohesiveness, a lack of inspiration, and more sense of uncertainty that can create more anxiety. So as a leader, you have to be that anchor. And in some ways, I mean, not to completely liken it to parenting, but there are times for those of us who have kids, we don't know what's going on. Like we don't know the answers, but we have to, approach things in a way that projects to our kids that we are here for them. We're reliable. They can rely on us, and that we're going to have a sense of calmness around this crisis, and we'll work through it together. And that's kind of what I draw on, that I think is very helpful, to our team.
Excellent.
So just
yeah, there are some other slides and references and quotes that I didn't share, so I will share those with everyone. They're in the handouts. But there was a quote about being like the flight attendant and serving the peanuts, where that's when you know that you're going to be okay if there's turbulence on a plane and the flight attendant's still serving the peanuts. And so if you can create that calm. I also know that as leaders, it doesn't mean that we're all okay. And so I think it's important, even a great exercise to do with each of your teams is really strongly encourage everyone to have a trusted source that they can go to. There are some, I'm a huge optimist, and there are some days where I'm like, I just don't feel like doing anything. And then I talk to someone and I go, oh my gosh, I felt like I woke up in the middle of the night and like thought I was going to die and my son was going to be like an orphan, and like, oh, it's like, those are legitimate feelings, and it's okay to have that. And like, it's okay to not be able to just like get to work. And so just because we're all working from home and everything's so different now, doesn't mean you're going to go to your boss and share that kind of stuff. So I would really say the best thing you could do for your teams is get them all to say, like, do you have someone who's just going to be able to listen to you and just without any judgment and just hear you? Because everyone needs that space to just be like, oh my God, this sucks. Okay, now I can go get this thing done, right? But sometimes you just want to be in that moment of sitting in that experience where it's just not okay. And you don't have to be there very long even, but we all need someone to listen to that and say like, yeah, I get it. I know it is hard and it's different and it's unusual and it's everything we thought we were going to do this year changed, right? We were all December 31st, like, I've got the best plans for 2020. Oh my gosh, you know what? I had tickets to the Grand Canyon and to Milan. Well, okay, you know what? And I'm very grateful because I do get to work from home. And I know there are a lot of people who in different income brackets don't have the luxuries that we all have. So I think there is this just a massive amount of gratitude that I have for all of the people who are doing the work that matters right now and letting us be working from home. So yeah, there are so many great comments and questions. I'm sorry we didn't get to all of them. I will be sharing the slides and handouts. Any final remarks?
I just want to add, Monica, I think those are exactly the right points. I know we're out of time, but I want to thank you for getting this group together. And I think that key on bringing the network together is so important. At any time that I felt vulnerable, it's that network that keeps you going. It's that network that you can reach out to ask these questions, to say, how you're feeling, to bring you back together, that reminds you that we are the lucky ones. We do have people that can help us through hard times. Certainly working with this group and just being able to formulate our questions and our thoughts has even just helped me to think about how I can be a better leader, how I can help the people that are on my team, but also the other people that I rely on and that I want to be able to help through this hard time. So thank you very much for bringing us together. I know you're going to be planning more of these kinds of conversations, and I'll be listening into those, and I'm sure other people will as well. So thank you.
Yeah, the next one is next Thursday, April 9th at 8 a.m. Pacific. We've got Matt Fawcett, the General Counsel of NetApp, Kathy Vidal, the Managing Partner of Winston & Strawn, and Danielle Allison, the CEO of Miss JD.
Wonderful. And I want to thank you as well. I mean, this is just, I get excited about stuff like this. This is so important. People, like I said, people need to be seen. I think if I say anything beyond just thank you so much, and I'm so excited to now be connected to all of you, is just, I said this, I was in a focus group earlier this week, and they asked a question like, what would you tell young associates or that sort of thing? And I said, it would be a shame to come through all of this and be the same. There's such an opportunity for all of us, whatever that looks like, to elevate. What we're learning more than in any time ever is how precious this thing we get to do called life is. We're all focused on our work, we're all focused on our stuff, and I get it, and we are too. But at the end of the day, my gosh, we have been. My friend uses this phrase. We are in a place of forced stillness, and I think if we focus in on it and do it right, like I said, we can come out on the other side of this elevated and better stewards, better servants, client servants, people servants than we were before. And that's a win. And I think if we remember that, and we talk about motivating teams, motivate around stuff like that, right? To me, that's what gets people going. Certainly that's what keeps me excited and focused and excited about things like this, that I can think about, what can I build during this time that's going to make it better for somebody on the other side of this. So I appreciate the opportunity to vibe with you guys, man. This has been cool. This has been really awesome.
Thank you so much, Connie, Carolyn, Dawn, Julie. It's been a true honor. I will share the handouts. I will also post them on my website. And we do have a group for the Legal Academy, and it's on the Mighty Networks group, and that link is also on my website, and I can share that in the email follow-up as well.
Julie, how do we get invited to lunch? Hello.
I'll send out for anybody who wants to have lunch with me or cocktails impromptu. Let me know.
You put it on the Lawyer Whisper, can you?
Yeah, I'll post it on the Lawyer Whispers for any of you who are not familiar with my blog, The Lawyer Whisperer. It's www.thelawyerwhisperer.com, and I'll post my. I was going to be doing some Facebook Live things, but I'll do some virtual lunches and teas and cocktail hours, and I hope you will all join me for chit chat, and I'll try not to wear my pink robe.
No, wear it. You got to wear it. Yeah.
It's the first time I put earrings in 3 weeks.
Got to wear it. Carolyn, you've got to take that vacation. I think I have to too. I think that's one of the takeaways from this. So
Virtual vacation together.
Yeah. I know. I think that's cool.
Thanks, Monica.
Thank you all so
Thanks,
much.
Monica.
Thanks, everyone. I love seeing all the really positive comments. Thanks for connecting. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.